Welcome to the Lorehounds and the Into the West podcast. This is our conversation about The Conversation, 1974 Gene Hackman movie. This is part of our Gene Hackman coverage. I'm David, one of the main hosts of the Lorehounds. And with me for this podcast are lore masters Bryan, a.k.a. Bryan8063, and Lisa, a.k.a. Red Zippy. How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Doing good.
Great. It's taken us a while to get this scheduled, but we finally got it in, and we'll keep moving forward here.
That's right.
We had a conversation about Gene Hackman's filmography that is available in this feed if you're listening to or the Cinema Hound stuff. Otherwise, on the main feed, everything's there. And then we also had that lovely conversation with Marilyn Arpkila talking about the meaning of Into the West and what it's all about.
That was great.
We have a dedicated email set up if you want to get in touch with us, if you have questions, comments, if you have feedback on films that we're going to be covering or actors or, whoever we're talking about on this podcast. And that is intothewest@thelorehounds.com. And of course, we have our community Discord where we have a lot of great conversations happening about all the different shows and the movies. This summer is like movie heavy. Noticing like television wise, there's some stuff out there, but it's not like it was last year.
Yeah, I'm having no problem going to a new movie every single weekend.
Right? It's wild. Yeah, I'm going to go see the Back Rooms on Saturday. So
yeah, I'm seeing it on Sunday.
Nice. Okay. Well, maybe we'll have to talk about it. So we'll have conversations about that and many more other things on the community Discord, and you're invited to join us. It's a great space, a lot of great people, and of course, we are an independent podcast, so. As much as advertising dollars, go to support the podcast, subscriptions matter a lot more. And so if you have the means and the interest, we'd invite you to subscribe as well. There'll be links in the show notes. Go to our link tree, and there's the whole spread of links there, including our Patreon and Supercast subscription sites. And of course, we host a number of other podcasts. Shout out to the Dungeons and Do-Rags guys who just joined the network recently, and all the other affiliates. So check all that stuff out in the show notes. So we're here to talk about a particular film, The Conversation, Francis Ford Coppola's 1974 psychological thriller. And we'll talk about some of the genre stuff coming up here, but it's a mystery, it's a neo-noir. But the film is about surveillance, privacy, and moral responsibility. So the film follows Harry Caul, a skilled surveillance expert played by Gene Hackman, who's hired to secretly record a conversation between a young couple in San Francisco. As he analyzes the recording, he becomes convinced that the couple may be in danger and that his work could contribute to a murder. So he's carrying some emotional scars from a previous case that ended in tragedy. And as Harry slips into paranoia and obsession, he starts to have a sort of a crisis of conscience. He begins to question not only what he heard, but can he trust his own perception of reality? And that's where the film gets a little weird. It's Francis Ford Coppola, after all.
Yes. Oh, true. Yes. And speaking of, the movie was written and directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who was coming off the enormous success of The Godfather. And in addition to Gene Hackman as Harry Caul, the film features a supporting cast that many of us recognize, includes John Cazale, who we know as Fredo, mostly from the Godfather series. Terry Garr, I know her as a comedian. Robert Duvall, who
we're going to talk about that guy, right?
Robert, yes.
Yeah.
Frederick Forrest, who, if you Googled and saw his image, you would go, "Oh, yeah." He's a character actor. He's been in a lot of Coppola movies, and he's an Oscar nominee for The Rose with Bette Midler. Interesting. Cindy Williams, again, Laverne and Shirley, and Harrison Ford.
That's Williams. That's where I knew her from. Oh, yes, and Harrison Ford. Oh my God,
Harrison Ford,
Harrison Ford.
Yes, young Harrison Ford, and it's interesting because he, I think, was good friends with George Lucas.
Right.
They made American Graffiti together. This was 1973. So I ran across a interview that Ford did about his part. So he goes with the costume designer. He gets this part. It's called the young man. It's not Stet, but this young man. So he goes with the costume director who worked with Lucas and in American Graffiti. So they go shopping, and he convinces her to buy this $900 Brioni high-end Italian luxury suit. So it's like $4,000 if you bought it today. He puts it on and goes to meet Coppola. Coppola says, "Wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing suit. Why are you wearing it?" And it's that discussion and him wearing this green, amazing suit that got inspired for Coppola to expand his role to become Stet. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
So again, the movie came out in 1974, but it was made before the full impact of the Watergate scandal. But the Richard Nixon, it was like 2 months. Well, Bryan will fill us in. The movie came out either 2 months before or 2 months after we heard about the tapes. So the theme of surveillance and privacy and paranoia really struck a chord with the audiences and the critics at that time. The conversation went on to win the Palme d'Or, which for this year has just concluded about a week ago. And it earned Academy Award nominations for Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Sound.
Yeah, and the history of this movie is fascinating because it came out of the Godfather sequel deal. He said, "I'll do Godfather 2, but I'm going to do this movie." And they said, "Okay." Studio says yes. So it's a passion project that took him nearly 10 years to make. So the first draft was 1969. So he had to film The Godfather 2. So he let someone else, Walter Murch, finish editing the movie, which is a little bit unusual because he liked to edit his movies. So he had to quit about 10 days. They had 10 days left. It's about 78 scenes. Yeah, 78 scenes left to shoot.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. That is a lot. And as Lisa was saying, this was made before Watergate. So no one knew about the White House tapes until 1973, when Nixon aide Alexander Butterfield revealed in a Senate hearing that there were secret White House tapes, and it blew the lid off the country. It's like, what? Tapes? And but it was inspired actually by a conversation, I think probably in the 60s, right, with Irvin Kershner about directional microphones. And Coppola was fascinated by the idea of a private conversation between two people being documented in this way, again, before Watergate, but decided he would rather focus on the person doing the eavesdropping than those in the privacy being violated. So, of course, later audiences assumed it was about Watergate, and it's not.
Nope. Coppola kind of thinks that his movie, the conversation, took a little bit of a hit because in a negative way, people associated it to Watergate. So, rationalize however you want there. And Coppola wanted Gene Hackman for this role, although I think with anything with Coppola, you can say, well, first it was given to Marlon Brando, who refused, which you can probably say about any Coppola movie. But Hackman looked ordinary and invisible, just making him perfect, for the role. Of course, we know Gene Hackman for winning an Oscar for a very extroverted and aggressive performance from as Popeye Doyle in The French Connection.
Yeah.
But, Coppola wanted someone who could disappear into a role, someone ordinary and unexceptional in appearance that would make him believable as a surveillance agent. And, so it's really kind of different, between being outgoing and being introverted there. Hackman found Harry, the character, emotionally difficult to play, but he later feels it was one of his finest performances of his career.
Yeah, and I kept thinking about Lise, the Royal Tannenbaums, because he also, he had difficulty with that character. Yeah. And it's like you're kind of like separated from your kids, you kind of have this wall up, and it's hard to make these connections. It's kind of like a vibe like that. I don't know.
Yeah. There's something about, Gene Hackman and other actors, being asked to sometimes play a character that isn't yet fully developed. That was very common with Coppola as well, kind of like, building the plane as it's flying. Gene Hackman really kind of had to live in the role in a way that he felt really uncomfortable,
Good point.
and it kind of like rubbed off on kind of like I always think of who's my favorite guy, the Joker, Heath Ledger.
Yes.
So sometimes when actors are just stuck in a role for a long time, it really affects them. And this is kind of the way it was for Hackman. But really, today, most critics consider Harry Caul one of the finest performances of Hackman's career. Bryan and I, our two favorite film critics that we grew up on, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel. So Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4. Saying that Harry Caul is one of the most affecting and tragic characters in the movies. And Gene Siskel says it's a brilliant performance, is nothing less than one of the decade's finest. But he wasn't even nominated for a Best Actor this year. Okay.
Yeah. My gosh.
The guy who won is Art Carney, who I know from like The Honeymooners. It's like, dude. And he wins for Harry and Tonto. He plays like an elderly man going on the road with his pet cat.
Wow.
So Art wins over Albert Finney for Murder on the Orient Express, Dustin Hoffman for Lenny, Jack Nicholson for Chinatown.
Come on, Chinatown?
Right?
Yes. And Al Pacino for The Godfather Part 2.
Oh my God. What's going on with the Academy?
I'm like, why is Art Carney in here? It should be Gene Hackman.
Right.
But, and, one of the things that we're kind of discovering is a lot of vote splitting, I think, for the Oscars happen around this time. Because how in God's name do you choose between Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, and Al Pacino?
Right. Three of their most iconic roles.
Yeah.
Right. And so I kind of think that, there was so much amazing performances during this time period. These same people are always getting nominated. And I just really think there was a lot of vote splitting. And that's why it took a while, at least for Al Pacino and Dustin Hoffman, I think, to finally get Oscars.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's that I couldn't, and these actors were all part of like this little group that Coppola actually, and like Warren Beatty, all this stuff of New Hollywood, they knew each other really well and were friends. Here they are competing against one another in that way.
Yeah.
So the ratings, Metacritic has this at an 88, Rotten Tomatoes at a 94%, and Letterboxd is a 4.1. And I think usually anything on Letterboxd that breaks that 4.0 schedule is a pretty high thing. But this is a consistent set of numbers across. So I think it's pretty well, what do I want to say? The critics, the critics, people who care about film and stuff like that, are giving it a pretty consistent remark. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
And then, David, I wasn't sure. Bryan and I will eventually be developing some of additional scales and categories of our own, but didn't know you know them, David, so well. So I didn't know.
You mean the frameworks that we have currently existing?
Tequila.
Tequila, like, when Marilyn watched this.
Yeah. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to mark this as well. I'm going to pause this really quick. Right. Okay. After a little technical wizardry and whatnot, I got the document up in question, and it's our analytical frameworks. And yes, we've got a bunch of them. Some of these are not going to apply to this particular movie, but we'll just sort of run down the titles just to refresh everybody on them. So there's one test called the Lopez test for compatibility with Storyverse. And that's to say, like, does this installment of True Detective belong within the True Detective franchise? So this doesn't really account for this because it's not part of a Storyverse.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Then we have the Sanderson slider for adaptation, which evaluates adaptations along sort of a spectrum from faithful to the text versus sort of a redo for the medium. I don't think it applies here because we don't have original source text for that. Same
Right. It's an original screenplay.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Same for the Shippey test for source versus screen changes. The Sanderson slider and the Shippey test are really connected to each other in a lot of ways. And this just looks at when you're doing an adaptation, are the changes necessary and driven by the medium? Like, so the way that we're telling film versus what we're reading from a book. If there's commercial pressures or other creative decisions, it's sort of a way to evaluate that.
David, do you guys use it if someone made a remake of a movie?
Yeah, for sure. You could do a Shippey test. Yeah. And then that would also be a Sanderson slider.
Right.
Because you could say, okay, is this an original definitive thing? And how do they compare against each other?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And these are all things that we all talk about all the time, but we don't have a way to have a consistent conversation about things. So we sort of made these frameworks as ways to be able to normalize a conversation and have people talk about the same things rather than their own personal point of views. Then we have the Pukila scale for violence, so that it measures violence. It could be physical, psychological, sociological. Using the Rings of Power season 1 as like our baseline 0, because that's what Marilyn was just able to tolerate that, and it's sort of a +5, -5. So we have some violence in here, some psychological horror.
Yes.
So on a relative scale, Lisa, where would you sort of put this on your own personal?
I'd say it's somewhere between a +2, +3, meaning.
Wow. Okay. That high.
Yeah. So maybe more
disturbing.
+2. It is very disturbing. And I had a couple jump scares, and the back half of the movie when he's checked into the hotel and is doing all that, all of that is just heart attack city and gory, not gory, but it's bloody. It's a murder.
One thing we didn't do is we didn't prep anybody for spoilers. Assuming that you're listening to a podcast about a 1974 movie, we should have prepped you for spoilers. Are we doing full spoilers up until
we're gonna
after?
Once we do our fresh takes, we're still kind of on no spoilers, so I kind of ruined that for you guys.
Okay,
but then after,
it didn't spoil it. It didn't spoil it.
Like a hotel room, whatever.
Hotel room,
generic enough. Got it. Okay, so we're spoiler light free up until our
up until full spoiler discussion. Yep,
that's right.
All right, Bryan, Keela scale for violence.
Yeah, I was thinking probably around a 0.2.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Because again, it's intense,
right?
And I don't know if Marilyn could handle that intensity. And it's emotional. It's isolation. It's rough. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
It's uncomfortable.
I was going to say like a +1. I wasn't. It mostly in the psychological realm.
Yes.
I mean, there is a little bit of physical towards the end, but
right.
It's not bad. Then we have the Simsnard morality scale for main characters, and this is one that I believe Alicia and Luke developed when it was season 2 of Silo that they got this one.
Oh.
And it evaluates character. Or what are we? Are we on season 3 already? Or
season
4?
3 is going to be this year.
Right.
Yeah,
okay, good. Right. My brain is mush to begin with, and I wasn't sure where we were. Evaluate character morality using relative positioning between Juliet, morally driven, and Sims and Bernard, who are morally compromised. It's not a numerical rating. It's just sort of a spectrum placement between these two poles. Bryan, would you look at Harry Caul? Where would you put him between Juliet and Sims and Bernard?
It's I would probably, it's like maybe down the middle, maybe toward a little of Bernard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's got some moral wrestling. He wants to do good, but he's done some bad stuff that's haunting him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the way that he lives his life right now, and the way that he treats his people that are close to him.
Yeah, right.
So, Lisa,
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not far off there either. I think because he is trying to be moral and he's trying to be ethical in his profession, but he also has to do some untoward things. And then his own inner psychological protections lead him to be a little compromised morally, I'd say.
Yes.
But it's more of a lean rather than a step.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
So we have the Foggy Powell Daredevil verse empathy scale. This is a brand new one that Alicia and I believe Jean just made. I haven't listened to that podcast episode yet, but it comes out of season 2 of Daredevil, and we don't have a description in our document yet. So I got to get from Alicia the bullet for this. So we'll just place that one on the side.
Okay.
We have another one called the Zatoichi scale for AI capability. Not relevant here.
Nope.
And then there's a couple of other ones that are more deeper level analyses where you'd actually have to sit and do a discussion. That we're not going to do these. And I really haven't built these out yet for us to use on a regular basis. But one is a toolkit to analyze villains and their motivations and how they operate. But then there's another one called the Miranda Priestley Perfect Movie Paradox, which is an assessment of whether a film is perfect relative to story, acting, editing, and production. So you can just take those sort of 4 criteria and think, okay, based on the intent that the filmmakers have put into this, do they hit? Do they achieve a good story? Do they achieve, is acting achieved? Is editing achieved? And is overall production achieved? And if so, could you then consider it for yourself a perfect movie? And the paradox is as we move as individuals through time and our sensibilities change and cultural sensibilities change, things may change therein. But then also you could have something like Devil Wears Prada, the very first one. In my opinion, that's a perfect movie because it hits all 4 of those things so well. And you wouldn't think of it as a movie that's deserving of perfect, or of being lauded, and put up against, other laudable movies. So that's part of the paradox as well.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, Lisa, any thoughts on, is this a perfect movie for you based on sort of those 4 ideas?
Based on those 4 ideas, I'm going to have to say yes. Acting, no brainer.
Okay.
Gene Hackman, as we'll talk about. Editing, no brainer. Walter Murch, which we'll talk about later, and Bill Butler. Story, yes. Especially since the flip is, we're the eavesdropper and not so much the people that are getting spied on. So it's a very unique point of view. And then production, again, as we'll talk about, especially for when this film was made.
Incredibly well shot.
Amazing, in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, so for me, it's a perfect movie.
Interesting. Brian?
I agree. And this comes, we'll talk Fresh Steak soon, but the more I see it, to me, the better it gets because you're seeing the creativity, the genius, really, of all these creators coming together. And to me, I agree. It's perfect. Wow. It's one of my favorites.
Okay. It misses for me a little bit in story.
Okay.
I can see that.
Because the Harry's journey into madness, there's just like, okay, Francis, you're just having one of your little moments here of like weirdo filmmaking. And there's some shit in here that I was just like, what is going on?
Right. Yeah.
Like this pushes it a little bit beyond what I'm expected. So from a story standpoint, it just falls short a little bit for me. But acting, incredible. The production, the cinematography on this thing is just stupid. Like the lighting is incredible. The camera work. Like, I don't know how they filmed this thing with the big clunker cameras that they were using.
I know, isn't
the
it
big
amazing?
clunker lights that they had back at the time.
Yeah.
It's really good. Okay, well that was kind of fun. I haven't actually walked you guys through those frameworks for a little bit, at all, really. So this is sort of a new thing we talk a little bit about on some of our other podcasts. But anyway,
Cool.
So Lisa, you had a note here about the time frame for this movie.
Yeah, again, with kind of like we were talking about, filming in San Francisco, Coppola's Zoetrope Studios was the first major, bigger studio based outside of LA. And the movie really came out during an incredible period for American film.
I mean, I was going to say, this is New Hollywood, right?
This is the New Hollywood era where has just over like those few years, you have The Exorcist, American Graffiti, Mean Streets by Martin Scorsese, The Sting, right? 74, same year. Conversation, of course, Godfather Part 2, Roman Polanski's Chinatown, Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Those are wild movies. Those are.
And Hackman is in Young Frankenstein.
That's right. Exactly.
That's right.
The horror classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre that made a huge impression. And then, David, you know well, 1975, Jaws, right? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Amazing, yeah.
Nashville. Dog Day Afternoon.
Oh, shit.
Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, and he already did 2001 and Clockwork Orange. So these are, maybe our listeners have not seen most of these movies, but it permeated the culture that those titles probably resonate with most people. It's like, oh, yeah, I know about The Sting.
The 70s and the 80s both are just rich cinematic thing. It's driven commercially, but there is just so much film for us to enjoy in so many different genres, big films, little films.
Yeah. And these movies influence filmmakers today in 2026.
Yes, right.
I mean, they're still making an impact. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So,
Lisa,
okay.
What did you think? What are your fresh takes? Okay, so now that sort of all that administrative stuff is out of the way, we can now start to get into the movie proper.
Yep.
And we'll give our light takes here. And then after that, we're going to start getting into spoilers.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, what did you think about the movie?
Yeah. Well, one of the questions that I really liked posing to myself that Bryan and I talked about was, what did I think the movie was going to be about before I watched it? And what did it become after I watched it? So for me, my first viewing was that it was like a mystery to be solved, like a procedural or something, But then on a rewatch is where I get the morality, the guilt, the shame, the interpretation or the misinterpretation of information and mistaking our assumptions for truth. And I was also very attracted to this film because of, again, the sound design and editing for Walter Murch and then Coppola. So really for me, it's one of my top 2 or 3 roles of Hackman. I just love it. And my pitch is it's Blow Up meets Rear Window with the paranoia of all the president's men starring Robert De Niro and the Taxi Driver.
Wow.
Dang. You talking to me?
You talking to me?
That's a lot.
You.
Yeah.
Trying to pack all that into my pipe and smoke it.
Right. Yeah.
Me out here. That's a potent blend. Bryan, thoughts?
Yeah. So I thought it would be like a French Connection kind of action-oriented vibe. It's like,
right, Hackman,
like surveillance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But by the end, it's so much more nuanced context of piracy, privacy, morality, the paranoia, the power of information. Right, which is something that we forget, but is always around us today. And of course, with the isolation that he builds walls around himself. So this is one of my all-time favorite movies. And it started inching up as we were doing this podcast Into the West, and we're watching this movie. It's just amazing. And it's one of my favorite Hackman roles. As he plays a loner, this awkward, paranoid, character so brilliantly. It's so good.
Yep. What about you, David?
So I didn't know about this film until we did a Gene Hackman film festival for our subscriber only podcast 11Zs. I literally had never heard of this movie. I did not know of its existence.
Wow.
Good education.
It didn't win for that. I forget what we talked about for that. Do you guys remember? I don't remember.
Oh, for what we did as survey about?
No. What we did for 11Zs.
For 11Zs.
Anyway.
Wasn't the Royal Tannenbaums?
No, that was on a different one.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyways, it didn't win in the poll, and so we didn't subsequently talk about it. But I had wanted to, because when I was doing my prep work, a lot of what I was reading were that this is a well-regarded movie. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I hope, I should one of these days get around to seeing it again. And I think, like both of you, I thought, oh, it's going to be a bit of a spy procedural cat and mouse type thing or what have you. So I was not at all prepared for where the film went. I remember too watching it when Harrison Ford popped up, and I messaged you guys on the Discord. I'm like, Harrison Ford!
We're like, yep.
Looking young and handsome.
Yes.
And, it's really, we talked about this earlier in Hackman's approach to the role and what he was dealing with. It really is not a typical role for what he does, sort of an angry guy or a real sort of alpha sort of, boisterous guy. He's
extrovert like Scarecrow or French Connection.
Yeah. I think it was French Connection. That's what we talked about for 11Zs.
Nice.
So yeah, he's introverted. He's mercurial. He's it's just not his usual role that Hackman plays, and not what we know him for. And I really felt him acting here, but not in the bad way of an actor acting.
Right.
But I was like, oh, I'm like really noticing, because I'm not used to him playing this type of character. I'm like really noticing that he is acting. He's actually doing his job.
Yeah.
And so that was really refreshing and interesting. And I think this is the kind of movie too. It has a twist, right? We were sort of upfront about that, and I think a lot of folks would, if you read a little bit, you'll catch that. And that the twist I didn't expect, so that was great. There's a bunch of stuff in here that also seems to be, there's a surveillance fan thing. I was like, oh, is this where the trope of the surveillance fan comes from? And it's not, but it's like, it's one of the early uses of it that sets the trope into
making it a trope.
To making it a trope.
Yeah. Iconic.
And or the secret lair, and and if we go to Enemy of the State with
that's right.
Hackman and Will Smith. This is almost like a reprise of that role, this lone guy in this sort of warehousey space doing his thing. So a lot of interesting stuff there. But then the psychological aspect of it and where it goes, I think this is a movie that rewards multiple viewings, but not in the sense of, because once you know the twist, then you're kind of like, the energy is changed. Like the way I tried to watch it a second time the other day.
Yeah, the propulsion isn't quite there.
Exactly. And I fell asleep towards the end. It was a long day. It's tired. There's a lot of pollen in the air right now. So I crashed out. But thinking about it, I think it's the kind of film that if you do watch in multiple sittings, you watch certain chapters of the movie, and what you should watch for, what I was watching for, was camera movements, lighting, sound design, character portrayals, the way that this film is constructed, because my God, visually it is just incredible. What they do, that opening shot looking down on the square, like
Union Square.
Union Square, absolutely mind-blowing how smooth that camera and that slow zoom in is from that distance, mirroring the action of them doing their surveillance as well. So really lovely. And so there's just so much richness to this film. But then, when you get towards the end, man, it's like, it's a whole other movie. It's a whole other weird thing. And
Fisher King on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That's a good pull.
Yeah.
So
nice.
yeah, I'm so glad that I discovered this movie, and I think I'll just keep it around. And it's like, okay, well, I want to watch that scene again. Or how did Francis, shoot that? Or how did he, there's just a lot there that you can pick out, or even to the performances. Because once the storyline is revealed, then you're kind of like, okay, got it, right? But then you get to have some fun with Hackman trying to decode the mystery and be part of the mystery, right?
He's 100%.
And
exactly.
he becomes the hunted.
Right.
Yeah.
So should we get into spoilers here? So, okay.
We're going to talk a little bit more about, we are talking about Harry as a character.
Okay. So let's roll into that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because it's like harder and harder now to not.
Exactly.
I know. Right.
So it's really just looking to see if Harry, is he a good person? Is he empathetic? Would you trust him? And I thought one of the things that I'm noticing as I go back and forth is whether he was actually good at his job, because, his colleagues, he's introduced in the beginning of the film as this, just genius, kind of guy, legend. He's revered, but his triple locked apartment is so insecure that the landlord was able to come in and leave a birthday present. His mail is open and read. He thinks his phone is unlisted, but everyone seems to be able to call it. It just kind of makes me wonder. I'm like, dude, and at a trade show that we'll talk about later, he allows his chief competitor to fool him and lets his employee quit. And then the next day go work for his competitor. I'm like, dude,
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was just like, and letting everyone in to come party in his warehouse, including his competitors. Dude, no. So
but I think doesn't that go into the psychological makeup of him that deep in his paranoia and his sort of isolationist, there are things that he's missing, because he can't have conversations with other people. We're all incomplete as people in a way. We may be, a whole, right, as persons, but we're also sort of, it's a complex and busy world, and there's just no way that we can
be present to all those things all the time.
And we need society to be able to cope with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And in his isolation, he is, it's his failing.
Right.
Yeah.
Bryan?
Yeah. He becomes so insular that he has all this disconnect, as you were saying, that his mind just isn't fully functional.
He may be a genius at his job, but running a whole business on his own and such. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good point. I put down he was good at his job. I think parts of it he was this legend, but he's also a bad boss. He misses so much social cues and just makes mistakes that in corporate espionage 101 you just don't do, right? So right. So would I trust Harry? No, I would not. I mean, the dude even just rigged down on his client, not taking the tapes. It's like, ooh. Is Harry a good person is a great question, and we're going to talk about
goes into the Simsnard of it.
Yeah, exactly. He wants to or tries to be, but because he has, I think, some morals in there, but he's been burned. He did bad things. He's living with them not very well, and he's complicated like a lot of us. Yeah. Like the born identity, where you had him doing bad things and he gets amnesia, and it's like, oh, here's a chance to wipe the slate clean, but he has a past of bad things, Yeah.
And an interesting part of the character I saw too, to kind of close out this segment is, and Coppola's this way. Coppola's Catholic, so he's going to bring a lot of that to a lot of the storytelling.
Is that why that's brought in so heavily layered in? Okay.
Yeah, he deliberately made Hackman Catholic. When Coppola was thinking about the story for this film, he remarks in an interview that the confession booth in the Catholic Church is one of our earliest versions of loss of privacy and eavesdropping, if you think about it that way. So that was always embedded there, so by making him Catholic, where he's not so much rooted in faith, there's definitely not a lot of hope there, but in the shaming and the guilt, as a Catholic, we see a lot of that. So, yeah. No, so it's really cool, and I think we'll take a break. I think for sure, because when we come back, we'll talk about full spoilers when we come back. Woo! And just really kind of break down for the three of us what scene just really unlocked the movie for us, what clue fooled you, all that kind of thing. And then I also look forward to talking about the art of the filmmaking just a little bit. That you talked about, David. So yeah.
Great. Okay, well, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll get into full spoilers. Okay, and we're back. We're going to get into full spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie at this point, maybe check out here, pause this, come back, and then hear us talk about the movie in full. So, Lisa, do you want to? Yes, exactly. Lisa, do you want to pick it up from here?
Yeah, there were so many scenes that just stood out for me. And I thought each of us could kind of share what we thought. I think what I keep coming back to is in the middle of the movie when Harry is at the convention, security and surveillance convention.
Right.
And he invites everyone back to his workshop to kind of party, have a few drinks and that kind of thing. And there is a woman there that is trying to seduce him, not very successfully. She's very pushy about it. But the way that it is filmed, and it grows more and more, and I think this is really the breaking point for Harry, is Harry cannot stop playing over and over in his head the conversation.
Right.
That he taped. And he is to the point now where you think he thinks he's in conversation with one of his peers, and he cannot stop thinking about, what the conversation was. And it was edited in such a way that it was almost like a voiceover. So we saw Gene Hackman kind of move around and try to detach and connect and detach, but but all you heard over and over again were these parts of the conversation. So he does finally give in to Meredith. She's very persuasive, which of course we learn later why. But anyway.
So do you think she was a plant the whole time?
Yeah, she was a plant. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Corporate espionage.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's desperate enough to take a job like this.
Sure.
In her life. She seemed like she ended in a sort of a run of not great. She's not where she would like to be in life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly.
And Hackman hadn't given the tapes to his client yet because he was under strict instructions to only give them to the director, the man who hired him. And so when Harrison Ford, as his assistant or go-between, is like, no, you can give them to me. And Harry's like, nope, so that's why he's still in possession of those tapes. So yeah, the corporation definitely wants to find a way to get their hands on those tapes.
Can we just quickly segue on to the assistant played by Harrison Ford's character? Did you both interpret his trying to intercept it as a way to protect his boss? Like he's trying to be a good... He knows that what's on these tapes and in these photographs is going to hurt the director's thing. It's going to cause a lot of problems for the company and for everybody. And that it's not like Harrison Ford's character is trying to not give the tapes to his boss, but he wants to control the delivery so that he can mitigate the impact and manage the fallout.
Right. And that's one of the twists too. I'm sorry, Bryan, I'm just jumping in here.
No.
My impression of it was just quite simply, that he didn't have a real respect for Harry or the kind of job that they do. He was just another to hire, person that they hire, and here's your product, and I think Harry...
He's counting money outside.
Yeah. Just, they don't think much of Harry and what he does for them. So it was more like, I interpret it more as a hired hand, and the way that Martin kind of threatens him and says, look, you really don't want to hang on to those tapes. There could be some dangerous stuff on those tapes. And that would normally scare an underling to say, ooh, okay, and they are surprised that Harry holds on to it. So, and
this is Harrison Ford's, the whole stealing of the tapes was not the director. This is all
Harrison.
This is all Harrison.
It's all Stead. Yeah. I agree with David. I was thinking that he wanted to control the situation so he could manage the situation,
the fallout,
like I'm in, exactly, and kind of steer him maybe to that decision making process.
He definitely wants to hear first.
Yeah, exactly.
The chief of staff, let me hear what's on the tape before I go to my boss.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
And when they're in that conversation and Robert Duvall is saying, I forget what Robert Duvall says to him, but he says some sort of comment like, you want something. He was trying to, Robert Duvall's character is trying to not accuse Ford's character of something, but he's saying, oh, you just want it this way or you just want it that way, which is clearly an indication that Robert Duvall's character is feeling being managed. He's being managed by his assistant.
I agree. Yeah. There's like some pressure going on a little bit. Yeah.
And so it's really like, Harry is in this scene and he gives in to the seduction or whatever, he just really starts spacing out. And it was then that literally the way, again, it was edited and shot and filmed. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is breaking.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's for me, and then that right after that is when he has his foggy dream sequence,
right?
With Anne, and everything like that, and he wakes up and the tapes are gone. It's like, oh, okay, new game. He's becoming more disconnected and paranoid and just steeped in the conversation.
I have an audio clip from the dream sequence. Ooh. It's a little bit rough. It's very short. I kind of truncated. So let me play that because I think it goes into your point here, Lisa.
I'm not afraid of death. I am afraid of murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that go to your point that you're sort of like one of his psychological things is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, a lot of it is the guilt because again, he's not saying I'm a murderer, but he is afraid of murder, the act of murder, which again, as a Catholic is a big deal. But as we talked about, point. He had a previous case where a consequence, of a recording he did for a client resulted in the death of two people. And so, he's trying to isolate that and say, no. But in that whole dream sequence, he tells Anne, Cindy Williams, his whole life story, and he just becomes someone really different. He opens up to her in a way he couldn't open up to anybody else. And then, he's
and he was just being prodded by Moran, right, to say, tell us what happened, and that it's like and
Moran is just needling him,
exactly, Mm-hmm. So everything's bubbling up in his brain, his subconscious,
and so that was a big scene for me.
Okay,
so what about you?
I've got another audio clip from that scene though too, which I think goes back into Caul's interiority, and it's interesting because we talk about he's not afraid of death, but he's afraid of murder. So that's a Catholic thing. But yet he is not afraid of relations outside of marriage. And that goes into the Terry Garr thing. And then this conversation that he has about that. So this is kind of a long one, but I think it goes into something that's very important to his character.
You never really knew when he was going to come to see you. You just lived in a room alone. and you knew nothing about him. And if you loved him, you were patient with him. And even though he didn't dare ever tell you anything about himself personally, even though he may have loved you, would you... Would you go back to him?
How would I know? How would I know that he loved me?
Bryan, you're nodding your head.
Yeah.
You'd have no way of knowing.
So it's interesting because in that moment he realizes that he's been withholding his feelings from Terry Garr.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and she's really nailing him on that. Like, I know nothing about you, dude.
Yeah.
Why won't you tell me anything?
And how am I supposed to know that you love me because you pay my rent and you come over and sleep with me, but you don't share yourself with me?
No other love language. There's no love language there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're just so, again, theme of isolation where you're completely cut off that you finally beginning to see in that moment at the loft with Meredith. It's like, oh boy, I might have blown it. Yeah.
So this is interesting, because this movie is operating on a lot of different levels. And on the one level, there's the neo-noir thing where the hard-boiled character suddenly realizes that the world is bigger than he imagined. Mm-hmm. And that sort of psychological horror and that realization is affecting, right? And it affects the character. So there's that. There's the weird Coppola dream sequence stuff. There's the murder mystery. But then this is this descent into madness story where Caul is being confronted with a whole bunch of different stuff about the way how he lives his life and the job that he does. That it's about his, like you were saying, Lisa, his psychological undoing.
Yeah.
And now that dream sequence, I didn't think about this before, but it makes the dream sequence or the blood in the toilet sequence makes so much more sense. Because this is really him this is his psychology rupturing. Yeah. His sense of self rupturing in the moment.
Yeah. It's really again, where my question was, what scene really unlocked the movie for me? Because really after that scene, I didn't know whether to trust the POV, is this in Harry's head, and I hope that we're going to talk about, the bloody toilet scene because Coppola has never answered that question, about whether that was all in Harry's head or not. So
that's interesting.
So that was a turning point for me. So Bryan, what was some of your big scene? Like if you had to pick a scene.
Yeah, it's like, it's talked about. It's the most scene that's talked about. It's the ending. It's the climax, 5-minute ending, which to me, cinematically is just astounding. Yeah. And the music, the camera work, but also he's now sitting totally unraveled. And I think also we should acknowledge that he may realize he doesn't control anything.
Nope.
Right? He thinks he lives in a world where it's controlled, locks, microphones. I, run all this equipment. I'm in charge. I'm running my own company. And you realize, as you were saying, David, the bigger world is a bigger world out there. I'm seeing it, I'm facing it, and I control nothing, and I'm losing my mind. So I think that was something that really unlocked the movie for me.
But what happened in that scene? What would you tell people? Like if you were to tell, to show people like, well, what is this movie about? if you really wanted to get across that essentially it's an unraveling of the psyche, describe that last scene. I think it paints that really great picture. I mean, he is literally looking for a bug because he knows, that he's continued to be spied on and he's been threatened. And he literally tears his apartment apart.
Every piece of drywall, every floorboard, every piece of furniture. He even breaks the
Virgin Mary statue.
Virgin Mary statue. Hesitantly, right?
Ooh.
Catholic, you don't want to break the stuff, and he finally does it, right? So the obsession to find it is just heartbreaking.
Yeah,
he can't stop.
No,
he can't stop.
He's just ruined everything around him.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, he stripped him. He stripped his interiority.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, the ending is really good. So, David, how about you? What scene really kind of did it for you?
Well, I can't put it on one scene. I mean, I've mentioned a bunch of stuff already, so I don't want to monopolize too much more. Because I think I've interjected where some things that I feel are important, but it's almost like there are the unraveling of the multiple stories. It's like they're different movies, but they're all perfectly welded together. So like, what's the one scene that unlocks it? I can't say that because you can't unlock this part until you unlock that part.
Right.
And it's process. This movie is a process.
Yeah.
And so there's no one
it's like a Russian doll
for me. Yeah, it's a nesting doll for sure. Or Hall of Mirrors or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think I would guess that maybe the pivot point for the movie is the party at the warehouse because he's getting drunk. Mm-hmm. He's letting Moran needle him. He's talking with, I forget, is it Meredith?
Meredith, yeah.
Meredith.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Meredith is all up in on him. But then he's obsessing about the tapes and he's evaluating his self-worth relative to, a business competitor. And what this strange little society that he has around him, all of these oddballs and misfits that he consorts with. And so I think that's the pivot point, at least of the movie. And that's where we switch from the sort of hard-boiled neo-noir thing into the psychological territory. Yeah. It's that dream sequence, I think, is the break.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I like 100%. It. Yeah.
For me, I mean, the movie is also about 8 words. It's about specific 8 words.
Oh, okay.
He'd kill us if he got the chance.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. And
8 little words.
Yes, 8 little words. So Coppola is making us think, are we listening to the tape or are we listening to Harry? Because it's all in the context and the meaning that we put on words. So throughout the film, Harry is sitting alone, replaying recordings, obsessing over tiny details, searching for hidden meanings, constructing theories about what he thinks happened and what was said in the conversation. And as viewers, we do the same thing.
We're going along.
It's a puzzle. It's a mystery box.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to totally break down everything that he's breaking down. I'm putting it all together as I'm watching it.
Me too. Yeah.
And we listen to the tape over and over and over again, and we focus on certain words. We study facial expressions, and we look for cues. And it really reminded me of like what we as Lorehounds and other fandom like Lost. It's just like, oh my god,
Yes.
And what comes out of it, the coup de grace, if you will, or is that Harry finally gets the audio recording cleared enough to where he hears Mark, who's having an affair with Anne, Cindy Williams, saying he'd kill us if he got the chance. and how Harry hears it because of the work he's done and the cases he's worked on.
Yeah. His past.
He hears he'd kill us if he had the chance. So, Harry thinks these are two people who are in crisis, who are frightened, who are scared, and
Or
that
life endangered.
they're in danger. And the he is, probably the director is where he's going there. Maybe Martin, Harrison Ford. We need Harrison Ford as a murderer one day. Anyway, but yeah, so, but before we realize it, we're trapped inside Harry's perspective and we're interpreting the evidence the way he does. And as Harry becomes convinced that's what the truth is, we continue to share that that's what it is. And it's all the way into where he checks himself, Harry does, into the hotel, that a rendezvous has been arranged where Anne will bring her husband, the director, to a hotel on a Sunday. And so, this is where the moral and the crisis comes in where, oh my God, maybe I should do something with this information I have. Can I prevent it? Should I say something?
Yeah.
So he thinks, well, I'm going to go to the hotel.
Breaking his own cardinal rule.
Yes.
Right.
It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
I do the job and I walk away.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm the observer. I'm collecting this information through sound, and I just give it to the person, my client, and walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care. Yep.
But he's guilty. He feels guilty over what happened to the people. Right. Exactly. And so now we have this moral dilemma, which is his undoing.
Right. And so, so he goes to the, hotel, and he gets the room right next to the room that the couple had booked. And another just powerful and amazing sequence and scene is when he's setting up his surveillance equipment under the toilet, to kind of be able to hear through the walls, and so we hear what Harry thinks he hears is, they're arguing or they're talking and things like that. And he believes that, that there might be a murder, like it's happening. And he freaks out and he goes to the balcony, and there's this really big jump scene where, he sees Cindy Williams, and blood and being attacked and all that. And he freaks out. And he's like, he's stuck between, oh my God, I couldn't save them, to it's not my job to save them. What am I doing here? And oh my God, this man is going to kill me. It's just, Gene Hackman just rolls up in a bolt, a little ball, and just climbs into bed because he's so overwhelmed by what he saw.
Yeah.
And then when he wakes up and he's like, okay, let's just take a breath and see what's happening. So he breaks into the hotel room next door.
That's right.
Thinking he's going to find all this evidence, It's all clean. Nothing's disturbed. Nothing's happening. He goes into the bathroom. He's like, looking at the toilet, they put that little ribbon on, and he opens the toilet. And for a reason I don't quite understand, he flushes the toilet. And what comes out reminded me of The Shining.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All this blood comes running out of the toilet.
It was clogged, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just, oh my God. And it's still at this point, he thinks Cindy Williams, has been killed or Mark has been killed, and he gets all bloody and he's seeing blood everywhere, and he's just visualizing what he thinks happened. And, it just blows him away. It's just really devastating. But when he leaves the hotel to confront the director, like, you're a murderer, I know what you did. You think that's what he's going to do. They're not letting him go anywhere near the director. And they kind of haul him out of there. And he ends up seeing a news story in a press conference that the director has suddenly died.
Right, the twist.
In a tragic accident. And he's like, fuck.
This was a setup the whole time. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, those 8 words are now, he'd kill us if he got the chance. So we better kill him.
Yeah, right. Preempt.
So rather than he'd kill us if he got the chance, we're in danger. it's a rationalization. Well, he'd kill us.
Mm-hmm.
Got the chance.
So
and I think that's the thing. It's a rationalization statement, not a fear statement.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great summary there, sis. You know, it's and you're just going. What's great about this movie and a hallmark of a good like mystery is you're going for the ride, right? Because you are in the same, you're viewing it the same way he does, and not necessarily questioning. You know, and it's like a good mystery. You're just riding the wave, and it's like, bam, the context changes, or you know, the information is in the wrong context, and it's like, oh, that foyer scene was great, and his face, it's like, oh
my god, yeah. I mean, it was just, you know, holy crap.
So thinking about the toilet and the blood too, right? So we know that he's suffering from some PTSD, you know, and he's isolated and he's in this altered psychological state. You know, with toilets and plumbing, we think, okay, we put it in the magic bowl and it just goes away, and we don't have to think about it anymore. And what's happening with the toilet is that it's reversing its flow and it's backfill. So all of this gunk that has been jammed up in there is now, you know, reversing and coming out. And so psychologically for Harry, that's what's happening here is all this pain and guilt and the isolation and how he's lived his life. Right. It's all, it's all sort of coming out in the most wild Francis Ford Coppola cinematographic. You're like
Brian De Palma kind of thing.
Exactly. Totally. Because I'm watching this and I'm like, what movie is this? I'm like, okay, Francis. And that's what I remember too. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Coppola movie, right? Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all that psychological, you know, garbage is now dumping out, and then what the whole question of, you know, who do we trust as our narrator now?
Right.
Yeah.
The conversation, Harry's point of view, what's real and what's not real with the toilet and the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of the things that always bothered me until we were, you know, talking about this, it's like, if it's real, it's like the body is already wrapped up in plastic. It's being taken care of. Mm-hmm. What always bothered me was, why didn't you just take that stuff and put it in the plastic bag?
Who's stupid enough to flush
the director? Yeah, right. And it's like, oh, well, it's Coppola.
Very good point.
Let's make a statement here. It's
Let's
good.
Put a horse's head in the bed. Sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Sleep with the fishes.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the most famous images in 70s cinema. And it is still, like I led with, it's deliberately left murky, like in the whole DVD commentary where both Walter Murch for sound and editing, and then of course Coppola, they don't ever answer that question. So, you know, it's interesting. So yes, obviously the director did die, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, how much of that violent, you know, realism, how much of it was in his head and how much wasn't, you know? So yeah,
So here's a question for both of you. I'm curious about, because for me, when a film has an ambiguity like that, like Inception with the top, right? Blade Runner, is Deckard, you know, is he or isn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, leave me with that tension. I don't ever resolve it for me. I do not want to know, because that vibration, that sympathetic vibration, you know, that's making me like psychologically go, but I want the answer. That's what's interesting for me in terms of answering, you know, thinking about what the film is trying to say, asking questions, thinking critically about the process and the storyline. So like for me, that they've never revealed what their intention was there is perfect. Like I love that. I don't know. Do either you, do you feel driven for the answers, or are you okay with ambiguity?
No, I'm okay with ambiguity.
Okay.
I am as well. I'm like all us great lorehounds and human beings. We want to know and dig for the answer.
Exactly. We want to know.
But it's so important to have that world where you can start building all sorts of things in your brain. You know, that's just the magic.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing too that I wondered, and then we'll kind of talk about, since we're talking about these scenes so vividly, you know, we'll kind of talk about the art of the filmmaking of this to close out. But, you know, I wonder, like, what happens to Harry once the film is over? Like, what happens to him the next day?
Right.
When he wakes in that destroyed apartment. Like, who does he become now?
Can he rebuild himself?
Yeah. Right.
You know,
Can he?
It's a fun exercise to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need the answer, but it's a really interesting exercise.
But it leads you to more questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean,
what else should we talk about?
Well, David, especially since you remarked on the cinematography and things like that, you know, what really resonated, you know, for you? Like you saw a lot of the visual. You know, he's always in these really tight elevators. He's in elevators where people keep coming in after, and he keeps backing up into the corner.
Right.
Confession booths, hotel balconies. His warehouse is expansive, but he's way over on one end, and the rest of the floor is bare.
Caged in. Yeah.
Caged in. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it talks so much about the isolation of our main character. And the costume choice was interesting. I read in an interview that, and I didn't notice until second watch, but, you know, like if you go to Niagara Falls and you get one of those transparent raincoats. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what Harry wears when he goes outside, and he's in this transparent raincoat. And that was a very deliberate choice that they made.
I clocked that and I didn't understand it.
Right. Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
The one thing that I racked it up to was that, especially with Harrison Ford's, you know, $4,000 suit wearing guy, and whatever, that fancy sweater that he's wearing, is that he's a little bit low rent. But I didn't understand the meaning of the raincoat. Did they?
Yeah.
Did they unpack it at all in what you?
Yeah, they did. It was meant to be that Harry thinks he's closed off and guarded, that no one can get in to see who he really is.
Right.
But in reality, as we talked about, his landlord can get in okay. Things get stolen from him. He's, you know, his competitors are crawling all over the place. So he really is like an open book, but he doesn't understand that.
Right.
But the costume can tell that story.
Right. What did you guys make of the mime in the square?
Oh, that was a great touch.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand what was that saying? What was the mime saying about Harry and the character in the film?
Same kind of thing where, well, you know, a mime, because they can't talk, obviously.
Right.
But so they learn who you are by your body language. And I think a lot of times, you know, Harry, it was like a demonstration of, you know, how uptight and rigid Harry is, or, you know, and that kind of thing. So I thought it was just another visual manifestation of the impression that we're supposed to get.
Yeah. Right. And, you know, in that scene, you had Anne was picking up on the body language of the people of Harry's crew, walking around, and you have our own body language if you're trying to tail someone and get someone on tape, right? So it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Pretty cool. And
I thought it is an interesting device as well, because when we're on that long shot, which if you do I would say to anybody, just watch at least the first 5 minutes of this movie. Because that camera move, to have it so steady and so clean and have such a long, clean zoom, you know, that long pull that they're going down into there, and then angling the camera just right. So, because when you zoom something in, you end up you have to reframe on the fly to keep everything proportional and right, because you're changing the focal length. And so to get us down onto that is incredible. But then the mime is the introduction to Harry and a couple of the other people, but mostly Harry.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting way to our two other antagonists, I guess you could say, or our they're not our crime victims, they're our crime perpetrators.
Yeah.
Because they're in the shots as well.
Yes.
So I just thought it was a really clever device overall and then that distance, of that sort of closing, we're very far away, and that's how Harry lives his life, and then we get up sort of close. There's a lot going on in that shot, and it could have been just like, hey, how are we going to do this? Oh, well, let's mimic the guy being up there with the sort of rifle
radar kind of thing.
The directional microphone.
The directional microphone. That's what maybe they're just mirroring that, but in fact it works for so much else around the film.
Yeah. I mean, I think on second viewing, I listened to the movie with my iPad, my earphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's another thing, in terms of the sound of this movie, because it just goes in and out and what we're trying to do is, and it's just all the different recording devices have different styles and manners in which they're collecting the conversation. So those are all going to sound different. And we're often following Harry back in the workshop of how he's manipulating the sounds and putting everything together. And so just to even listen to that movie, I mean, the conversation, the sound is the story.
Right.
Without the sound design, there's no movie. I mean, the entire movie depends on, sound interpretation. It reveals information. It conceals information. It misleads. The entire mystery and his obsession and ultimately our misunderstanding all emerge from a single recording, a sound recording, and how we interpret it. And so the sound is just really, I mean, and to this day, it really launched Walter Murch.
Yes, that's right.
He worked with Coppola, but he became sound and editor. And he later worked on, oh my gosh, I know him from The English Patient because that's when he won all of his Oscars. But anyway. It's Walter's amazing. And of course, being the Lorehound that I am, I'm reading a book that he wrote. And it's really just more about the lectures and interviews he's given, kind of compiled together. But one of the things that he says I just thought was so wow was, being a sound designer, he says, we as humans gestate in sound. We're in the womb. We hear our mother's heartbeat and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And we're born into sight. For the first time, we're seeing things as humans.
Open our eyes. Yeah. Here it is, the world. Fuzzy, but here it is. Yeah.
Cinema is gestated in sight. It's a visual medium. First ever films were obviously, visual films. But it was born into sound.
Ooh, nice.
Once we start doing the sound, and we gestate in sound and are born into sight. Cinema gestated in sight and was born into sound.
It's interesting.
And that's the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And, this movie introduces us to Murch, who is considered by his peers as one of the greatest sound editors
ever.
Yeah. He's that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is. I know all my notes, that I was writing as I was watching the movie, saw it twice, was like, oh, cool sound with, with the electronic equipment and how he edited to clean up those 8 words was really
it was amazing.
Just amazing.
He did the sound on both Godfathers, American Graffiti, Apocalypse Now.
Wow.
Godfather Part 3, Ghost, First Night, The English Patient, Talented Mr. Ripley, Cold Mountain, and just keeps going on. Yeah. So
yeah. A legend. The Legend and the Born.
For sure. And then that kind of, for me, goes into the last thing that I know we like to talk about, especially with Nevermind the Music, is the soundtrack. And, and that's kind of what I want to kind of close on, because it was like just very simple piano and some jazz, it wasn't like, that kind of thing. The score was written by David Shire, who at the time was married to Coppola's sister, Talia Shire. If you know Coppola, you're going to get somewhere. He was already an accomplished composer, but it became one of his signature works. He later did the score for All the President's Men, Saturday Night Fever, not the Bee Gees part.
Yeah,
that's the original score. And then Norma Ray, he actually won an Oscar for best song for Norma Ray.
That's a great movie.
Yeah. And so we'll hear the music and the tinkling, of the piano for sure. But what's fascinating is that Shire didn't just simply record the piano. He actually manipulated and distorted recorded piano sounds to create unusual textures, much as Harry manipulates and filters audio recordings throughout the film.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And how the machines themselves create distortion that you have to clean up. Yeah.
Bryan, did the score remind you of, or both of you?
Yes.
Yeah. There was a couple movies, actually, and I'll mention one for David. He may have a better memory, but there are a couple scores that come to mind. One is Zodiac, which I think is around 2007, has that simplistic kind of intensity to it. The other one, too, is Blowout, Brian De Palma's 1980 movie, which has also simplicity to it, but powerful. And then, it's just reminds me of that. And, David, you might have a better memory because I think you podcast Severance. I think some of the shows had a certain simplistic kind of...
That was the first thing that I thought.
Yes.
When I heard that piano motif.
Yeah, I thought so.
Severance.
Me too.
I was like, whoa. And I went and I checked and I dug in, and they're not the same. And I don't think that there's any direct evidence that whoever did the soundtrack for Severance has said anything about this movie. But you gotta think that there's an homage here. There's a pulling of something. Somebody has got to have taken some inspiration, from the conversation for Severance.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, 100%. And interesting too, the jazz music thing and having Harry be a jazz music, a saxophone player. So that goes to, this interiority again, where he's all buttoned up on the outside, but on the inside, there's something that wants to cut loose and live and, play fast and loose and not be so controlled. And that, again, is part of that psychological tension, that complexity for his character. So yeah, not only does sound design, but soundtrack play a really, really important part of creating more dimension for the story and the character.
That's right. Jazz is built on improvisation.
Yes.
And
which is the opposite of a surveillance security person is going to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a very interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
Dang.
So I guess to close it out, I mean, I think we can all say we very highly recommend this film.
Yes. I think it should be required viewing.
Yeah.
And it still brings up the same kind of themes that we are still talking about today. So whether it's smartphones, security cameras, the CIA spying on us, data tracking, just the constant digital surveillance, it's still something that we as a society, still reckon with. It's probably not really cool what we're doing, but we are literally recording everything that you were saying.
Well, and I think too now in literally a post-truth world, I'll hear these short ads on different podcasts that I'm listening to. For like, I think Starbucks is running a bunch of these, and you hear somebody talking about, oh yeah, as a musician, blah 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 blah, and you got to be in the moment and all this stuff. And boy, having that Starbucks, drink at the end of the day can really, bring back the whatever. I'm trying to think of this one specific ad, but there are more that are like this. I don't think that that's a person. The ad is short enough, it's clean enough, it is stylistically enough that I think it's an AI generated voice reading a program script. But I have no way of knowing. I have no way of knowing what the truth is in that moment, if that's a human being or not.
Right. Yeah.
And I think about, Harry, like he thought he knew the truth.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
He heard what he heard.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a question of meaning making and applying meaning, and that's what we do as human beings is we give meaning to things.
Yeah.
Things exist in the world. They just exist. But we create meaning so that we can interact and understand and
communicate, learn and teach. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%.
But now we don't know what's real.
No.
Anymore, whether an image is real or fake, whether an audio is real or fake, whether a particular website, a news article is real or fake.
Yeah.
And it all stems out of this. Yeah. I don't know how to relate it back to the movie. I'm trying to relate it directly back
sometimes
to the movie,
I feel like Harry, especially in the hotel and he's listening and he's like almost screaming into his pillow. There's just something about what is going on? What is going on? What is real? What is real? What is happening? Is this in my head or did this just happen? And oh my God, and just that whole freaking, it hits you. Your brain is just giving you all these different mixed messages about what's going on. And he just can no longer make sense of it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it feels like with information just dinging at us.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you bring it up to like a meta level, we're looking at how this anxiety that Harry has and all of us have about institutions, whether it be corporate, like, the director or government or, influencers today using information as power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's just like in the movie, it's like, what are you going to do with this information? I think he asked the director that, right? Yeah. And it's like,
and it's corporate espionage and information is power. And
yeah. Exactly.
So there's a lot of interesting themes, cross-cutting themes there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What's next?
Well, we have now concluded our Gene Hackman section. So we are gearing up for Catherine O'Hara.
Okay.
Yes.
So we get to go through all of the Christopher Guest and a lot of her Canadian improv and things like that. So look forward to a nice change of tone.
Okay.
We're sad that she's gone, but, she brings us laughter and joy. And so we'll do that. And then Robert Duvall is coming up.
Yeah, that's next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
That's
okay.
right.
Well, we'll get that scheduled. We'll get the Catherine O'Hara retrospective, and then we'll run another poll, and we'll pick something to watch from that, and then we'll come back and do the same here. Great. Well, thank you guys for organizing all of this. This was a lot of fun. And I don't know, I feel like we're starting to get it together. This is our, third Into the West podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So
but our first film synopsis.
Right. Exactly.
That's right.
So we're still sort of learning on the go, but I think it worked out well. And this is fun. Well, let me give a quick shout out to our community and for everybody who does everything to help support these podcasts to make them happen. First are our Discord server boosters, Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Duve71, Athena Ajalea, Lestu, Nancy M, Ghost of Perdition, Radioactive Richard, and Adrian. They all donate a little bit of extra something for the Discord server. And so that makes it more of a fun and interactive space. And we get a couple of cool features because of it. So thank you for that, for making the space a little bit better for your peers, for your fellows. And then we have our lore masters, our top tier subscribers, folks who not donate, but subscribe at our highest level, which really is our foundation to make everything else work. So, Samartian, Michael G, Michelle E, SC, Peter OH, Nancy M, Doof71, Bryan 8063. Who is this guy?
Who's
Frederick
that guy?
H,
I don't
Sarah
know.
L, Gareth C, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Nathan T, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu, Jeffrey B, Elisa U, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen N, Julia F, Coley S, Ilmariel, Rocky Zim, Jessica A, Red Zippy. That's another sus person on the list.
Stealing their name.
Zippy is our mascot at University of Akron, and then I used to have red hair, so I was the red-headed Zippy.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
The TCS, Dopamini, Ellen R, Mrs. Tennant, AC Wilson, Eli W, Cassie K, Chumbaruni, Catilla, Josh Liu, Paint in PDX, Corey G, Quinch, Jeannie L, and Slavinator. Oh, and of course, Adrian, who's always last but never least. We have lots of subscribers, but these are our top tier ones, and we literally could not do it without their support. So thank you all so very much. And Bryan and Lisa, we will see you on the Catherine O'Hara podcast.
Sounds good, David. I was trying to do a Schitt's Creek accent.
Oh, okay.
It just didn't work.
Didn't work.
I'll work on that.
Yeah,
all right, guys.
There you go.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by The Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.